I'm happy to be here with you. I'm going to answer a question today that I get asked often as to why and how did I become a Feng Shui master? And I'll tell you, if you haven't already guessed, it's not obvious. It's like not that I woke up when I was a child and said, oh, I'm going to become a Feng Shui master. But maybe you're like me. And because as long as I can remember, I've been someone that could feel the energy of spaces. I knew that some houses were happy. I knew that some houses were sad. I knew that some houses felt angry. And it didn't matter what people were there in the space. I had a palpable sense of the energy of space. And so that was curious to me. And then the other question that for me, I have been wrestling with perhaps my whole life is what is destiny? What are the forces that control our destiny? And how can I have control over my destiny? Because certainly a lot of the early teachings I had as a child didn't support empowering me. It was more like, oh, God is in control of everything, or, you're a guilty child and you have to do things the right way in order to get blessings. There was this other part in me that just was kind of like, there has to be more to this than that, right? Like, what's going on? And so, yeah, I did not set out to become a Feng Shui master, but I am someone my whole life who's been curious, open-minded, and had the energy to take my life further. So I've studied Western astrology, I've studied crystals, I've studied all kinds of curious things that are more outside of the norm. I've studied religion because different religions have different perspectives, and I've studied psychology. So, but it was in 1995 when I came across a classical book of Feng Shui. And this book said that there were three factors that controlled your life, and they called them heaven, earth, and man. 33% of your destiny is where you live, and 33%, that's earth. 33% of your destiny is what you do. So that's me, my actions, my habits. And 33% is the blueprint of energy that you're born with, if you will, that your soul incarnates in astrology, and it's time, and it's like a DNA thing, but it's this life's incarnation. Well, I was hooked. I love this philosophy because this was kind of like, what? There's things I can do, and that's inherently built into the concept of Feng Shui. It's like, oh, yes, if you understand who you are, what your weaknesses and strengths are, if you understand how that connects to all other energy, you can move and live with space strategically to your advantage, and then you can adjust your actions. And so for the first time in my life, I felt empowered. And that began for me, if you will, not an odyssey of reading thousands of books on Feng Shui, studying with 8 different masters. I've had the privilege to travel to China many times, to Malaysia, and to study with the top Feng Shui masters in the world as I tried to bring control into my life. Now, it's one thing to have a calling and to feel like I want to do Feng Shui, but why was this so important to me? Because I wanted to make the lives of my children better. I wanted to, 1995 was the year I left my marriage. I wanted life to be better for them. And I had this sense that somehow Feng Shui and metaphysics would help me to do that. And I was not disappointed. And even with just initial Feng Shui that I was taught, which is not based on the classics, which was more intention based, I started noticing that things became easier. I had more control. My kids would call me. There was just more ease, more, like it was just easier, almost like I would put in an intention and a job would come, or I'd put in a remedy, a so-called remedy. But anyways, I also had lots of questions because there's a lot of misinformation out there. Feng Shui, true Feng Shui involves using a compass. True Feng Shui involves using and knowing how to read astrology, Chinese astrology, because we have energy blueprints that are not one size fits all. And so, yeah, I never planned to become a Feng Shui practitioner. But now, as I look at my chart and my life, I can see clearly it was my calling, is my calling. And so I'm so privileged and grateful that I get to do this full time. Well, on the way, as I studied deeper into the study of Feng Shui, I learned that compass directions have formulas, that there's ancient methods. Like Feng Shui is thousands of years old. And when we know how to be in the right place at the right time, doing the right action with the right people, there's a saying, Feng Shui isn't for millionaires, it's for billionaires. Now, my goal is not to make billionaires out of everybody because I actually don't think money is the answer to everything. Feng Shui is a tool to connect you to energy to make your goals in life easier. So, yeah, it gave me the information I knew that I could start to support people's lives. And that was really important to me because my whole life, I have been someone who is of service, whether it was when I had my home daycare when my kids were young, or whether it was when I worked with schizophrenics with drug and alcohol issues for 15 years and did supported housing for them. I have always been someone that wants to help people do better. So I don't know how many more years I'm going to be doing this, but for a few more, I'm still here bringing the classical methods of Feng Shui. And that's actually an important part too, the classical methods, because there's a lot of the teachings who teach that human beings are somehow separate from the collective, if you will, like that if what I do doesn't matter and actually the truth is by raising your vibration, by being a better person, by coming from your heart with compassion. When we do those types of activities in our actions, our law of attraction is higher. The things that happen in our life are less stressful and less traumatic. And so it's not just Feng Shui, and this is where my psychology and spiritual background comes in. It's not just Feng Shui that does everything for you. Feng Shui actually opens the portals, if you will, so that you can get self-illuminated to see where you need to do your own personal soul growth. So for me, Feng Shui is actually a connecting our soul's purpose, raising our vibration, taking the actions needed, working with time, because it's not always the right time to push. Sometimes we have to rest. And then, you know what? Magic happens. Lives change. It transforms how we see and work in the world. Now, does that mean we're going to live to 200? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But when we start working in attunement with what our soul purpose is, in alignment with Feng Shui and things like that, life is better. And so how did I become a Feng Shui master? Well, I just was so curious after reading 2,000 books or studying with different teachers and doing this. Every step along the way, another door would open to another teacher, to another opportunity, to travel or to go to China or to that. And in that process, without me even looking for it, in 2006, I got named a Feng Shui master. Now, what is a Feng Shui master? An expert, if you will. Now, traditionally, the Feng Shui master was someone who had students of his own, taught it, and then a grandmaster was someone whose students actually taught as well. There were lineages. In today's day and world, the lineages of Feng Shui are, in some cases, questionable, but in many cases, no longer necessary. I'm just not someone who followed one master. And if you want it, you can go to my website and see the full bio. But the moment I realized how important Feng Shui is, and I'm sure I have past life knowledge of this in the sense of it's being aligned, it's bringing in the Tao, it's bringing in the I Ching, it's studying all those different methods together. That's what a master of Feng Shui is. Anyways, I'm privileged to be able to work full-time with people and corporations and businesses and teach and do this. And so there you have a little bit about why I became a Feng Shui master. I became a Feng Shui master accidentally, but it was my path. And now I get to be of service to others to teach this and to help you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.